Friday night, the sports show, and it is the Flowman joined by the Statman. And if I had a Cats jumper, I would be wearing it because you would have your Western Bulldogs one on. So raining cats and dogs in our studio.
Well, no. Yeah, to a point. I don't mind the dogs. If I had a second team, it'd be the Western Bulldogs. I'll put that out there. Yep, I'm a fan.
I reckon I'd be a Giants man. Just for the underdog, I'd love to see somebody from that state.
I love to see the doggies doing well. I've got a family member who's a one-eyed Western Bulldogs supporter. So, Travi, if you're listening, I hope you're enjoying the Dogs season. But look, I've got to say this about the AFL. I think what's going on in the AFL at the moment is if you were to have a look at the top three clubs of the last few years, Richmond, Collingwood, they've dropped off, admittedly, a fair bit this year. And maybe the West Coast Eagles, if you could throw them all in together.
Brisbane, Geelong.
I'll go with those three.
Yep.
In tennis terms, who are Richmond?
Oh, this is a good question.
In tennis terms, who are Richmond? Is it Novak Djokovic?
No, there's.
Well, you either follow him, you love him, or you hate him.
Raphael. They've got a lot of mongrel in them. They never give up. They come from behind. They're good on one surface, the MCG. Oops, yeah, you know what I'm saying there.
Could be. Well, you've got, in tennis terms, anyway, we'll move on and get away from the AFL. But in the tennis world at the moment, we have a unique scenario. We've got the three greatest players of the modern era all going head-to-head at the one time. It's an unusual time in men's tennis. Novak Djokovic winning the French Open has really thrown this wide open. It was supposed to be Rafael Nadal's crowning moment. And if you remember correctly, before the tournament, I tipped Novak to win it.
Oh, you did too. And I actually went for Tsitsipas, who was the runner-up. So you and I we've done our research, didn't we?
Yep. Well, something told me, one thing you know about Novak is whether you love him or hate him, when the whips are cracking and games absolutely have to be won, Djokovic gets the job done.
He's down 2-0 and he's won it.
He's not fashionable, but he gets the job done.
He's done 19 times he's done the job, and he wins at Wimbledon. That's 20, 20 and 20. Wimbledon this year, the greatest ever Wimbledon, maybe, because Federer's coming back. He took the French off, knew he couldn't win it with the hip injury, and trying to do everything he can to have one last step at the age of 40 to win. Raf, look, I don't think he can win Wimbledon.
Well, Rafael Nadal can't win Wimbledon because he's pulled out.
Oh, well, then there we go. Novak will win Wimbledon unless Tsitsipas or the changing of the guard. And I had this discussion with a couple of our young sports presenters in Ellis Gellius and Dan Crouch, and it got me thinking, and I put this article together. You can have a look at it at flownews24.com.au. The changing of the guard. This is it right now. We've seen lots of changings of the guard. Historically, we actually have a look at it, the great era of Australian tennis. So, I mean, what a fantastic era it was when Australia dominated the world in tennis. And we think of Laver and Hode and Sedgman and Rosewell and Emerson and Cooper and Newcombe and so on. Margaret Court around the same time. 50s, 60s, Australia. Then come out of that, the 70s and 80s, it was the greats of Sweden and America. Bjorn Borg, Jimmy Connors, Arthur Ashe, John McEnroe, and then, of course, some like Ivan Lendl, the Czech, who was also amongst it. Just Pat Cash putting the hand up in 87 for the Wimbledon title for the Aussies. 90s, Pete Sampras. America, America, America. Jim Courier, Andre Agassi, Michael Chang. It went on and on. Then we had three Australians enter the fray towards the late part of the 90s. Pat Rafter, Mark Philippoussis, Leighton Hewitt into the early 2000s. And suddenly we thought Australia may be a new era. No. In came these three Europeans in the great Roger Federer, who just dominated from the Wimbledon 2003. And then after that, Rafael Nadal dominated the French. Then after that, the Australian Open dominated by the great Novak. Here we are. Is it the end of the era? Novak goes on, wins more, gets to 23, 24 maybe?
Yeah.
Did my research, didn't I?
No, look, I think Novak can win at least 6 more majors before his career finishes. He's only 34. We've seen obviously
Roger
Federer and Nadal winning majors to 38-ish. The reality is, who's coming through at the moment to push these three? That's why they're still playing at the highest level. I mean, all three are ranked. Novak's number one, but you look at Roger Federer and Nadal, they're both ranked inside the top 10 still.
Yeah, 8 I think Federer is at the moment. Yeah,
it's unheard of.
Amazing, 40.
And it's a black mark against the name of the current tennis generation who just simply either aren't good enough, don't train hard enough, or don't want it enough. I'm not sure what the answer there is, because in every other era we've seen guys hit 29, 30 and get caught by someone.
Yeah.
Well, who are the guys
like
catching this group?
Yeah.
You've just gone through it. That's why I liked your article, because you're right. Through those periods, these guys, we thought through their hot periods, I mean, I remember you go back to Borg and McEnroe, you thought, surely no one will ever play tennis this well ever again.
Yeah.
And they were clearly overtaken by...
Bjorn Borg on grass at Wimbledon, was he not? 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look at the current generation of tennis player, and Dominic Thiem and Tsitsipas and Zverev and Medvedev, and you think,
are they good enough?
Well, they're not. Clearly, they're not. Even through Nadal and Federer's era, before Djokovic really started to come through, there were others challenging.
Yeah.
There was, the likes of Marat Safin, who at his best was very, very good.
Yep.
Del Potro popped up, won a couple of majors. So
yes, he did.
There were guys that were capable of it. Who's actually capable of beating Novak Djokovic at a major right now? And no one has proven capable of doing it.
Well, that gets me to another point. The Grand Slam, Rod Laver, he did it. He won the Australian, he won the French, he won the Wimbledon, and he won the US. 1 year, calendar year, Grand Slam. Can Novak do it this year? He's won the Australian, he's won the French, could win Wimbledon and go to 2020 with Raf and with Roger. So suddenly, can he win the US Open and go to 21 and then become the greatest player of all time and win the Grand Slam at the same time? This is exciting. I think this is one of the great sporting moments that we're watching in front of us. And I guess others will say, well, hang on, Raf and Roger were my favourites, so therefore, I don't want to see...
Roger Federer every day of the week is my favourite. But here's the brutal reality. If Novak Djokovic wins Wimbledon, and then I think he'll go on and win the calendar Grand Slam, the debate is over.
He becomes the greatest ever?
Novak Djokovic is the greatest tennis player that ever lived.
Yeah.
He's got, first of all, we'll have the 2 career Grand Slams.
Yep.
He'll have a calendar Grand Slam, which neither player, Federer or Nadal, has accomplished, a calendar Grand Slam. They both have 1 career Grand Slam. Novak has won French twice. Federer has won the French once. Obviously, Nadal has won Wimbledon once, so they all have the career Grand Slam side of things, but nobody's done it in a calendar year. Novak could be the first to do that. Plus, he has the most majors. I mean, how do you not then go down? If, at the end of the day, if you win 21 major titles and your next best has won 20, you've had a better career than them.
You have, and it doesn't matter what surface.
Pure numbers game.
These are the 4 surfaces. Rod Laver, the only other Grand Slam winner, is going right back to that 60s era that I've just spoken about. And again, you make an excellent point. The changing of the guard. Kafelnikov, was a good player. Gustavo Kuerten was a good player. Pat Rafter was a good player at the end of that great era of those American players, that 10-year era. This is a 20-year era of these 4 guys dominating tennis, the longest era of any domination ever previously. And again, I think it's coming to an end, but I think it's going to be the current group of players, the 5 or 4 that you've mentioned there, like Team, Tsitsipas, Zverev, they're all in my article. I reckon that we're going to see some other group of players emerge out of this and a new changing of the guard in men's tennis.
I'll put it to you now. I believe there are only 2 players in the Wimbledon draw capable of beating Novak Djokovic.
Tsitsipas?
Nope.
He nearly beat him in the French.
Yeah, I don't think he can beat him on grass.
Right.
I think the only 2 players capable of beating Novak Djokovic on grass, on a surface that he holds no fear for Novak anymore, is Roger Federer, who does not have a good record against Novak Djokovic, but he is capable on his day of still beating him. He can beat anyone in the world, Roger.
Nearly beat Roger in a semi-final at the US Open 2 years ago.
And the other player is someone I don't think will ever win a Grand Slam, but on his day is the best tennis player in the world right now.
I reckon Kyrgios will be the person you're going to mention.
Nick Kyrgios.
And on grass, if he actually kept his brain right for the whole 2 weeks, you're right, he's got the talent to do it.
Well, we know he's not capable of that, but on one day, on a random day,
Could
he is
beat Novak.
absolutely capable of beating Novak Djokovic.
What a Grand Slam Wimbledon tournament we have ahead of us. This is going to be wonderful to be covering it. I think we'll do this each week for the next couple of weeks as we head to Wimbledon. This, I think, is going to be one of the most amazing situations in men's tennis we've ever witnessed. It is your Friday night sports show.